Who knew that a Call of Duty campaign that released in 2009 would hold up so well today? After extensive reworking to its visuals courtesy of developer Beenox, the Modern Warfare 2 Remaster gets a surprise release on PlayStation 4 that, in truth, veers closer to a full-on remake. Cutscenes are created from scratch, with new motion capture. We get new animations, high quality materials, a reworked post-effects pipeline, and not to mention gorgeous HDR support. Through all of that though, and just like the work put into Modern Warfare Remaster in 2016, it faithfully takes the framework of the original game. The core of Infinity Ward's level design is right there, from the sweeping helicopter snipe on the Gulag to contained shootouts on a favela high-rise. As for the visuals, every layer is retooled to keep its presentation in step with today's best, and it's remarkable how well it all comes together. A few caveats to this. Firstly, it's a timed exclusive to PS4, and so a look at the Xbox One and PC versions will have to just wait until the end of April. Secondly, the other downside is this is a campaign-only release. There is no multiplayer, a shame when you think the remaster of Call of Duty 4 actually included online play. It was a huge part of the package that will be sorely missed. Faster, more chaotic than the original, with heartbeat sensors, more elaborate perks, and killstreak rewards that escalated to tactical nukes. Even though we do of course have the 2019 reboot adding classic maps from older games to the rotation, it would have been nice to have. On the plus side, you do get a no-holds-barred take on a great campaign mode. Beenox commits hard to include everything, and that even goes for the controversial no Russian level. Booting the remaster for the first time actually, it puts out a new disclaimer right at the start, just to clarify this is a complete work with no cuts. It also helps that this is still one of the best Call of Duty campaigns. For all its bombastic excess, its silliness, the story goes down a more subversive path than the original. There's a real sense of brooding dread as a terrible modern war moves to western soil, all amplified by a Hans Zimmer score and in spite of its colourful palette. Technically, it was groundbreaking for its time too, a 60fps game built for last-gen PS3 and Xbox 360 hardware. It had Infinity Ward firing on all cylinders to improve its animation systems, map scale, and detail on every stage over the original. Every level felt grander in scale.
Whatever you're gonna do, so do it fast!
What Beenox achieves with this remaster then is recreating that same sense of spectacle for a 2020 audience. Now the setup is similar to the 2016 Modern Warfare Remaster, starting with resolutions. On Xbox 360 for example, we had a 1024x600 sub HD presentation backed by 2x MSAA, a setup that fit neatly within its 10MB of ED-RAM to give a solid, clear picture for its time. Jump to today's consoles and base PS4 of course can smash this in pixel counts to a native 1920x1080. Anti-aliasing is seemingly handled in post this time with either FXAA or a form of SMAA, as we saw in the PC settings of the last remaster. Though it's worth pointing out there's no banding artifacts at all here in motion, which would go in hand in theory with a temporal form of AA. Either way, the picture looks incredibly clear and sharp on its own terms, and of course, a huge leap over the last gen standard. The other console to look at is of course PS4 Pro. This time you get a native 2880x1620 image or 75% scale on each axis of a full 4K. The result satisfies if you're running on an Ultra HD TV, and the entire pipeline is reworked to support HDR2, which comes out beautifully on the licking flames on car wrecks or the bloom across a midday sun. As for Xbox One X, well, we'll have to see when that arrives. A proper 4K picture would be in step with the power profile of the machine, but we'll see. It's worth noting that the original Modern Warfare Remaster still to this day only runs at 1920x1080 on X, while the regular Xbox One has a dynamic resolution that scales under that. In all likelihood, the base console setup will stay in place, but we'll see what X can pull off when it releases. To the comparisons then, as you can see there's very little between the PS4 consoles outside of resolution. Texture filtering quality gets a clear bump on Pro, while much else remains the same. One small tweak I did notice, which may be incidental, is a difference to the mapping of tiles on the PS4 Pro in the favela opening shot, creating a more 3D appearance. Other than that, shadow map quality is higher all round on PS4 Pro. Look at the edges here, and there are finer gradients towards the shadow edges. This ranks among the more taxing settings of the original remaster on PC, so it's nice PS4 Pro is seemingly getting more than a simple res boost. Otherwise, much of the level of detail for geometry is the same, though you'll spot randomly placed debris appearing on one console rather than the other. The upgrades next to Xbox 360 are obviously more striking. It's hard to know where to begin really when every facet of its visual design is upheaved by Beenox in some way, sometimes to a radical degree. For one, in-engine cutscenes are redone entirely. Check out this moment as we're picked up from the ground. The characters all move based on reworked motion capture. Depth of field was included in the original, but it's much higher quality on the remastered edition as well on the foreground character. Camera framing is adjusted too, and all round obviously, characters are bolstered with high polygon meshes with new textures for clothing, made all the more obvious in close-ups. Check out the crisp new layer of snow on jackets during this Kazakhstan level opener, a vastly higher resolution map, while skin shaders also appear to be improved in the way it interacts with oncoming light. Every surface has been touched up, notably city environments. This opening run through Rio de Janeiro shows fresh tiles now lining the pavement, and a darker tarmac material for the road itself. Fencing, floor pots, and even trees lining the road are replaced with high-grade additions. Curiously, global lighting is adjusted, with the sun casting shadows in a slightly different angle, though it's close enough to the original. As for post effects, Call of Duty keeps the screen relatively clear in gameplay as usual. Outside of anti-aliasing, we only see bloom and lens flares while running around, and a rare motion blur effect that kicks in during a skiing section. The more elaborate stuff, like depth of field, is kept for the cutscenes where it makes more of a cinematic impact. All round, the shots speak for themselves. Switching from the 360 game here to PS4 Pro, it's a relief to see it getting such lavish treatment. With that being said, there is one area in which the last gen consoles, 360 and PS3, could struggle at points: in performance. 60 FPS was always the target, but the campaign's ambition could sometimes get the better of it. A flashback to Xbox 360 shows a vast amount of gameplay hitting and holding that target with full VSync. We have trouble spots of course though, the favela shootout being one, the gulag intro being another, and particularly anything to do with drone attacks from above or exploding C4 with lots of enemies. Fortunately, a lot of these moments involve a still camera, where it doesn't show up too evidently, but there are exceptions. Infinity Ward deserves credit for pulling a lot of these levels off at the full 60 FPS on last gen, but it's useful to know that these are the stress points. Anything involving big sprawling areas like the strip mall or the mountaintop bunkers in Kazakhstan pushes the frame rate into the 40 to 50 FPS region, which never felt too great. So to turn to the base PS4 version today, it's a relief to see so much of this is cleared up. From the grenade launching across the river on the first level, to the more complex sprawls later on, it just holds at 60. The exceptions are very rare in my experience. Again, detonating the C4 in the snowed over bunker pushes PS4 to 55 FPS, but the battle after that plays out smoothly. No troubles there. Equally, the battles through the white picket fence towns in America don't give any issues at all. A really great result all round. The same extends to PS4 Pro. Despite the bump to 1620p with some improved settings in texture filtering and shadows, the game holds to the same level. Actually, to nitpick, I've recorded a few drops while scoped to the high 50s, but it's rare to see much more under this. Again, we're looking at big battle set pieces as the trigger, with heavy scoping on lots of transparent effects. The experience as a whole holds up remarkably well on both systems though, a sign that performance really was prioritised first over visual acuity, all of which is remarkable given how great the game looks all round. It's a success then. Modern Warfare 2 was a huge blockbuster moment in 2009, and while the times and technologies have moved on, the remaster does well to keep in step. None of the visual retuning would matter though if it wasn't for the robust game design put forward in the first place by Infinity Ward all those years ago. Either way, it shows the team at Beenox having the skill to polish up classics in a way that works today. These aren't just simple ports with visual tweaks to sweeten the deal, they are more thorough reworkings. All of which brings us to the question, what would we like to see next? The obvious request is to see a classic Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer mode return, of course, or even the Spec Ops mode, but I'd like to hand it over to you. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see get the remastered treatment. And in the meantime, if you did find this analysis useful or insightful in any way, please let me know by liking or subscribing, and don't forget to hit that bell to get notifications as any new video lands. To get a high quality version of this video, check out our Patreon at digitalfoundry.net, and to get in touch with me or the team directly, just use Twitter. But from me for now, thanks for watching.
Where to, my friend? Just get us to the sub.